feel like you guys could only see the sun. Okay, this is my first time doing this. I haven't done this ever. I was trying to make it look like a nice scenery, but the sun is the sun is sunning. Okay, so this is the Quran that I have. It's the clear Quran, English only. It's the thematic English translation by Dr. Mustafa. So if you guys got this one, this is the one that I'm going to be starting with. So right now, I'm going to be reading the introductions right after the table of contents. And then from there, we try and we go on. Okay. Okay. Publisher's notes. I'm literally reading from the beginning. Please note, the Quran, sometimes written as Quran, is a sacred book of Muslims who believe that God has revealed his word and message to humanity throughout the ages. For example, we believe that Moses was given the Torah, David was given the Psalms, and Jesus has given the gospel. In the same way, we believe that Muhammad was given the Quran. Muslims, therefore, treat the holy books of other faiths with care and respect. For instance, we do not read these books in the bathroom or place them on the floor. It is our request that if you treat this book with the same respect and handle it as if you would your own scripture. If you do not want the copy, please do not throw it away. You may give it to any Muslim you know or nearest Islamic center. Okay. The Book of Signs Foundation seeks to bring the Quran's message to you free of political agendas and Islamophobic polemics. I'm sorry if I don't know some of these words. That have dominated the airwaves and print media. Our goal is to provide a direct to-you source of authentic information that brings to light the Quranic message so that you may judge yourself the source of guidance for over 1.6 billion fellow human beings. Sources portraying themselves as honest brokers of information, like the news media, often takes liberties when presenting verses from the Quran without providing relevant context. Now that you have this translation, we humbly request that when you hear someone quoting the Quran, ask for an exact reference in the form of the surah, which means chapter, and verse number. Read verses that are grouped together along with their headings and related headings to understand the verses in their proper context. When reading the Quran, don't rely only on the so-called expert opinion you may have heard. Rather, form your own opinion. What you have here in your possession is the translation of the message of the Quran. It is the best effort of an individual to explain as closely as possible the meaning from the original Arabic language. However, it is not the Quran, which can only be Arabic. To truly understand its meaning, one of the master Arabic, for no other language can duplicate the power and impact carried by the original verses. This translation is an attempt to bring the glory of the message to those who speak and know only English. We hope that whether you believe this to be a revealed book or not, you will find him important. We hope that whether you believe this to be a revealed book or not, you will find important guidance in this divine book and remove previously conceived biases against the Quran, Islam, and Muslims. We pray that God Almighty will guide us all to a straight path and an ultimate salvation. Book of Signs Foundation. You guys, it's kind of cold out here. Oh, yeah. I'm sitting on top of my my prayer mat. All right. Translator's notes. We still got some. Okay. It was a summer day in Toronto, and I just finished leading the Friday congregation at a downtown mosque. On the way home, I had an unlikely encounter, since all my cab drivers in Toronto had been Muslim so far. That day, my driver was non-Muslim, so he was able to identify me as a Muslim simply because of my traditional Arab garb. Out of nowhere, he commented, "I think Muslims are good, but Islam is evil." Taken aback by his Fox News style rhetoric, I responded, "Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment about Muslims, but why do you think Islam is bad?" He replied, "Because your holy book calls me an animal." In astonishment, I answered, "I know the whole Quran by heart, and I don't think it says that anywhere." He cited 855, and I responded by telling him that the word daba in Arabic does not mean an animal but a living being. See 2445. He persisted, saying that in his translation says so. I later checked many popular translations by Muslims and non-Muslims and realized that the man was right. This fateful encounter opened my eyes to the rampant mistranslations and misrepresentations of the Quran. The Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the 7th century and was not translated into English by a Muslim until the 20th century. Many Muslims had long believed that the Quran should be only read in Arabic, the original language of revelation. This led to many inaccurate, ill-willed translations by missionaries and Orientalists. I hope I said that right. Which explains why we still see some words like holy war and infidels, as well as many theological inaccuracies in some existing translations. All this leads to endless false assumptions about Islam and Muslims. Some Muslim translators are no better off than their non-Muslims counterpart because they are not well versed in Arabic or English or Islamic studies or translations or all the above. Looking up words in Arabic, English dictionary, or copying earlier translations when frustrated does not always guarantee accuracy in translation. There are some noteworthy modern translations like that of Dr. Ahmed Zaki Hamed 2007 and Dr. M.A.S. Abdel Halim 2004. But many are either over-translated, making it difficult for lay people to understand, or under-translated, doing a great disservice to the Quran. This is why I saw a need for an accurate, smooth, and accessible translation. To achieve accuracy, I had made use of the greatest and most celebrated works of the old and modern tafsir, Quran commentaries, and shared the work with several imams in North America for feedback and insight. For clarity, every effort has been made to select easy-to-understand words and phrases that reflect the beauty and power of the original text. Along with informative footnotes, verses have been grouped and titled based on their themes for a better understanding of the chapters, their main concepts, and internal coherence. Thanks to our editing and proofreading teams, led by Abu Isa Webb, I believe that what you are holding in your hands now is the most accurate and eloquent translation of the final revelation, the clear Quran. Mustafa Khattab. Ooh, hold on. I gotta stretch my legs. All right, so we're going to the stylistic features of the Quran. The Quran was revealed in the 7th century Arabia, where people took so much pride in their mastery of Arabic that literary fairs were commonly held and prize problems were inscribed in gold for all to see. The Quran, which is to be believed to God's why am I reading like this right now? Okay, it's getting so cold, guys. I can't read. Okay, we're going back. The Quran, which is believed to God's immutable word, is a literally miracle unmatched by any other work of the Arabic literature. While Arabic has served as the medium for communicating the Quranic message, the Quran has forever changed the landscape of the Arabic literary tradition, promoting Arabic to a leading world language and influencing other languages, including Farsi, Urdu, Swahili, Turkish, Spanish, and many others. Several sciences have emerged to serve the Quran, such as Tafsir, Quranic commentary, Tawhid, theology, fiqh, jurisprudence, Tawhid, phonic rules of recitation, and Qira'at, styles of recitation, Nahwa and Sarf, grammar and morphology, Balagha, rhetoric, and calligraphy. I'm sorry if I said all those words wrong, but it's, I don't know. I don't know how to read in Arabic. Algebra was also developed in a part to solve issues related to the distribution of inheritance shared laid out in chapter 4. Together with the sunnah or example of the Prophet, the Quran is bedrock of Muslim civilization and the main source of Islamic law and practice. The following are some of the distinctive stylistic features of the Quran in its original Arabic form. Oh my God. Okay. Structure. The body of the Quran is made of 6,236 verses, or ayat, plural of ayat, which literally means sign, proof, or miracle. Composed of 114 chapters in more than 600 pages. A chapter of surah usually takes its name from the main theme, a story, or a distinctive word within it, with the exception of chapter 9. All chapters begin with the Basmalah, in the name of God, the most compassionate, most merciful. Depending on their respective chapters, verses typically rhyme and vary in length. Some are long, 282 is the longest and 15 lines long, while others are short. 2:1 is the shortest and at only 2 Arabic letters. The Quran is divided into 30 parts, or azza, plural of juz, each with 8 subparts, or arba, plural for rub, making it convenient for reading and memorization. Of the Quran's 114 chapters, 86 are classified as Meccan because they were revealed before the Prophet's immigration to Medina. These chapters focus mainly on restoring the belief of one God. The other 28 chapters are categorized as Medinian since they were revealed after the Prophet's immigration from Mecca, with the emphasis on the commandments regarding a Muslim's relationship with their Lord, their fellow humans, and the rest of God's creation. Some Meccan chapters may have Medinian verses and vice versa. Chapters and passages were revealed over a period of 23 years to address issues factoring the Muslim community. As instructed by God through the angel Gabriel, the Prophet ordered his scribes to arrange chapters mostly according to their lengths, with the longest chapters first, not chronologically. Although Quran is not arranged chronologically, the chapters are perfectly interrelated. Some of the stories or themes that are touched on passingly in one... Hold on, let me flip the page. It's cold out here, guys. Being blown away by the wind. Wow, I was trying to turn the page. My goodness. This is live, so you don't know what's gonna happen. What do you mean flushing? What do you mean flushing? Okay. Okay, chapter are explained in detail in the next chapter. In some cases, both the end of the chapter and the beginning of the chapter cover the same subject. One chapter might give some stories, and the next will continue the narrative by adding more stories. Additionally, two consecutive chapters might cover the exact themes but in different order. Quranic chapters have diverse themes with main overreaching subjects, interjected by secondary subjects. In essence, all themes have a common denominator, one relationships with their creator and the rest of his creation. Assuming that not everybody will read the Quran, when its entirely readers will run into the common denominator at given chapter. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know the location. I just put it in the GPS, a park near me, somewhere in Philadelphia or something. I don't know. All right, style. With the word Quran repeated about 70 times, the Quran is unique in that it actually speaks about itself, its revealer, its purpose, its devotion, its devotees, and detractors. The author of this profound book is nowhere to be found on the cover. Rather, he reveals himself on every page, speaking with authority, offering compelling proofs, giving commandments to prophets, believers, and all of humanity. Perhaps one of the most visible stylistic features of the Quran is repetition, which comes in three different forms. Repetitive phrases, such as, "Then which your Lord favors will you both deny," which appears a total of 31 times in chapter 55, and woe on that day of the deniers. Oh, I'm reading the Quran on live. This is why I wanted to go to places where there wasn't people around, because people are gonna be like, "What are you doing?" Okay. Where was I at? Woe on that day of the deniers, which appears 10 times in chapter 77. Far from redundancy, the purpose of repetition in these two instances is to create an impact by reinforcing the point being made, to acknowledge God's many blessings in the former and deter people from denying God in the latter. This rhetorical device is still employed by many modern orators. One of the most notable examples is the repetition of "I have a dream" and "Let freedom ring" in Martin Luther King's 1963 famous speech. Repetitive themes, such as arguments for God's oneness, uniqueness, and power in chapters 16, 35, and 112. The comparison between paradise and hell in chapters 37, 39, and 40, and 41, and the horrors of Judgment Day in chapters 77, 78, 79, 80, and 81. The purpose is to emphasize a recurring theme or to present more details. Repetitive stories, such as the story of Moses in chapter 7, 18, 26, and 28, and Abraham in chapters 2, 6, 19, and 37. The purpose is to reassure that the prophet and the focus on different aspects of life of these prophets. For example, the highlights of the story of Moses in chapter 7 and the arrogance of Pharaoh, the defeat of the magicians and the suffering of the children of Israel. In chapter 26, the focus shifts to Moses' childhood and unintentional killings of Egyptian man, as well as an escape to Midian and his marriage. The fact that these repetitive themes and stories are perfectly consistent, despite having been revealed over the course of 2 decades to unlettered prophets, is yet another proof of the divine source of the Quran. The Quran contains some fascinating numerical patterns. For example, Paradise and hell are each represented 77 times. Angels and devils 88 times. World and hereafter 115 times. Prayers, salawat, 5 times. The exact number of daily prayers, punishment 117 times, whereas forgiveness is repeated double that number 234 times. Day is repeated 365 times, the average number of days in the year. Days 30 times, the average number of days in a month. And month 12 times, the number of months in a year. Sarcasm is another common feature of the Quran, especially when it talks about the faith and those who ridicule the truth. So, readers can expect to see a warning such as give good news of a painful punishment. This style aims at paying the ridiculers back in kind as well as adding more intensity to the warning. Many passages in the Quran utilize a preferential style called tafidin, that is to say, two things share a certain quality, but one of them supersedes the other. For example, the Quran says repeatedly that the people of Pharaoh were more powerful and resourceful than the people of Mecca. However, some structures look at the like tafidil, but do not actually signify a comparison in quality. The assumptions that both sides share the same quality, but one is greater than the other, is what causes confusion in most translations of the Quran. For example, when 1233 suggests that going to prison is dearer to Joseph than committing adultery, this does not mean that either option is dear to him. Similarly, 1784 suggests that the believer's way is better in guidance than that of the pagans. But in truth, the latter is not guided at all. Furthermore, 1178 suggests that Lot instructs men that the single women of this nation are purer for marriage than other men, when other men are not pure for marriage in the first place. Emphasis. Let me stretch, hold on. Ooh, my legs. Ah! Emphasis is a common place in the Quran, especially where a concept is likely to be challenged by the skeptics. Sometimes one or more emphasis words are used, such as surely, indeed, and certainly. The repetition of a sentence 2 consecutive times is also used as emphasis, such as 102.3-4. But no, you will soon come to know. Again, no, and you will soon come to know. The repetition of a verb and in its noun form also can be used similar effect. If translation literally, 56:4 will read, when the earth will be shaken with a shaking, whereas meaning is when the earth will be violently shaken. Lastly, an oath is one of the most common forms of emphasis. God has the right to swear by any of his creation, such as the sun and the moon, the day and the night, and heaven and earth. However, a Muslim cannot swear by God. Whoa. So all of y'all saying, wallah, 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 wallah. Watch out for that. It's cold, guys. My hands are freezing. All right. Let's see how much time I got left. We're just reading the introduction, and tomorrow we're gonna start with the. Well, yeah. Tomorrow we're gonna start with the surahs. With the chapters. We're gonna start with the chapters tomorrow. Well, if I finish these today. Let's go. Hold on. I'm gonna sit down differently again. I'm not a kid anymore. I can't sit the way I used to for like so long. All right, let's go. Persons, time, and place. To prove its divine nature, the Quran often refers to past events that were not known to anyone at the time of the revelation, constantly reminding the Prophet that since he was not an eyewitness to these events, it was through divine revelation that he came to know about them. The Quran also foretells future events that were later proven true. Unlike English, the Arabic language has only three tenses: past, present, and future. The Quran is unique in using the past tense to refer to future events, particularly when it describes the day of judgment. In addition to reminding us that God is not bound by the limits of time, the aim is to give the impression that these events are so certain to happen that it is as if they have already happened. Gotcha. However, when these sentences are translated into English or any other language for that matter, the future tense is used. Generalizations Generalizations are also common in the Quran, where the people or the Jews, etc., actually refers to a small group that said or did something that was not challenged by a larger group. See 564. With some expectations, the Quran does not dwell on the names of the person, places, or times. Rather, attention is usually focused on the moral of the story, making it valid for every people, time, and place. To express the greatness and magnitude of a definite noun, such as the straight path, the merciful Lord, etc., the Quran often uses the name as an indefinite form, a straight path, a merciful Lord, but this translation uses the definite form in these instances in order to maintain the true meaning in English. The Quran states that the pleasures which God has prepared for the believers in paradise are beyond human comprehension. Hence, generic terms, e.g., rivers, gardens, fruits, garments of silks, bracelets of gold, etc., are often used to describe these pleasures in an appealing way, bringing it down to our level of understanding, whereas the reality of paradise are far beyond these descriptions. These terms are no different than those one who have been used in 1876 CE to describe the cutting-edge smartphone to Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of a telephone. Letters and pronouns. Of the 29 letters in the Arabic alphabet, only 14 appear in various combinations at the beginning of 29 chapters of the Quran. These letters are, I apologize if I'm reading this wrong, Nun, Sad, Ha, Kaf, Ya, Min, Kaf, Alif, Ta, Ain, Lam, Ha, Sin, and Ra. According to the Ibn Kathir, a renowned Quran commentator, is in his explanation of 2:1. These letters can be arranged into an Arabic sentence that reads, I don't know how to read Arabic, which roughly translates to a wise, decisive text full of wonders, although several theories have been suggested by scholars regarding the meaning of these letters. It is commonly believed that these letters are among the miracles of the Quran, and as such, no one knows their actual meaning except God. Unlike any other conjunctions like fa, then right after the thumma, then letter wa, and does not signify an order of events. The subjects of and clauses have sometimes been rearranged for better flow in English, such as day and night instead of night and day, seen and unseen instead of unseen and seen, etc. One of the first things that strikes novice readers of the Quran is that the word we is frequently used when God speaks. Whoa. This plural form, known as the royal we, is employed to indicate reverence and not a number. Almost always, God, I, or he is mentioned either before or after to emphasize God's oneness. Ooh. Another visible stylistic feature is the rotation of pronouns. If anybody could say that word, itidfat. Itidfat. Found throughout the Quran, alternating between first person, second person, and third person. If rendered verbatim into English, this rhetorical device becomes entirely meaningless, as it is rarely found in any Indo-European language at all, and almost never in English. A similar feature is found in the referential nature of pronouns in either language. In classical Arabic, especially in the Quran, the repeated use of a single pronoun, such as, rotates in reference, which is to say, it first speaks the first speaker, then the next you speak of the second speaker, and then back to the first, all using the same pronoun. And this way, repeatedly using he said will indicate a dialogue, whereas direct translation of the conversation would be rendered as a monologue in English. The same can be said of the other pronouns, such as they. Okay. The Quranic challenge. Unlike any other scripture, the Quran poses a falsification test to those who challenged its authenticity, which over time was made easier and easier. The first challenge was to produce a similar book in Arabic, 1788. Next, the challenge was reduced to only 10 chapters, 1113. Finally, the challenge was to only produce one chapter similar to it, 1038. And despite the shortest chapter being only 10 words, chapter 108, none of them have been able to match it. The Quran also challenges readers to find contradictions, 482. Some have attempted these challenges, only to prove the inability to match the elegance and eloquence of the divine revelation of their ignorance of the nuances of Arabic syntax and grammar. If you guys are just tuning in, we are reading the introduction today, and tomorrow we are going to get to the Quran. This is the introductions. I should have put that on the title. Okay. Notes and translations. God's name and attributes are capitalized, as well as pronouns used to refer him. Proper nouns referring to events in cosmology are also capitalized, such as the day of judgment, the day, the hour, the hereafter, paradise, and hell. In some cases, the use of a pronoun would be confusing or misleading, so it has been replaced with the corresponding noun for clarity. Similarly, in some places where the rotation of pronouns idifat is found in the Arabic, pronouns have been altered in English to maintain pronoun agreement. Gendered pronouns have been replaced with they, where the meaning was neutral, except the case of God, who is referred to as he, despite being gender neutral, in order to preserve the use of a singular pronoun while avoiding the use of it. Gender pronouns have been replaced. I already read that. Okay. Unless otherwise indicated. I'm sorry, guys. This is the first time I do a read along, so don't judge me for not being able to read certain words. I mean, you can. I don't mind. Unless otherwise indicated, biblical quotations are from the Holy Bible, International Standard Version, copyright the ISV Foundation. So they got some verses of the Bible in here too. Oh! Okay, stretching. Okay, half brackets indicates words inserted into the English which do not directly correspond to Arabic words in the original text. Words have been entered regular use in English, such as Quran, are spelled in English rather than transcribed. The most frequently used speech verb in the Quran is said, especially in conversation. To enrich conversations in English, several speech verbs are used in this translation, such as replied, cried, protest, pleaded, and threatened, depending on the meaning. See 1871 to 73. The name Muhammad appears only 4 times in the Quran. What? In some cases, words as the prophet or messenger are used to address him, but most of the time the prophet is addressed in the second person, you. This is when O prophet will be used between half brackets to indicate that you is referring to the Prophet Muhammad and not to the believers or anyone else. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay. The Day of Judgment and Judgment Day are equivalent and used interchangeably depending on the flow in English. That dirt smacking my face. All right, abbreviations used in the translation. Okay, here are some of those abbreviations. I don't know if you can see it. AH after Hijrah. BCE before Common Era, CE Common Era, e.g. exemplify gratia, for example, i.e. IDEST, that is to say, and literally. And then transliteration table. I'm not gonna read those because, yeah. All right. There's a map of Arabia and the land in the 7th century CE. You guys can see that. It's so cold. Okay. Common questions. All right. What is Islam? Islam did not start with Prophet Muhammad in the 7th century. Technically, Islam is the message that was delivered by all prophets of God from Adam to Muhammad. Islam is neither named after a person or a tribe, nor does it end with an ism. Though each prophet had a relatively different law, the essence of the message of Islam was always the same: the faith in one God and do good. In the Bible, the first 4 of the 10 commandments enjoin the worship of one God. The rest urge believers to avoid what is wrong and to do what is good. All prophets and their followers, included Jesus and his disciples, are simply called Muslims in the Quran. Hence, anyone who submits to God and strives to be a good person can be called a Muslim, with a small m, from a linguistic perspective. Every human being is born with the innate will, fitra, to submit to God, but parents and society change this nature, and in order to relate to the Almighty, many have put a face on God, mostly human or animal, throughout history. The process of restoring the fitra is called reversion. Islam is not only a religion, but a comprehensive way of life. Based on common sense and clear-cut teachings, Islam defines the rights and responsibilities of every individual in regards to their relationship with God and its creations. It balances the spiritual and material needs of its followers and helps them gain happiness in this life and then salvation in the next. Who is a Muslim? A Muslim, with a capital M, is someone who practices Islam. Muslims follow the 5 pillars of Islam. Shahada, testifying that there is only one God and Muhammad is the last prophet. The Salah, praying 5 times a day. The Saum, fasting from dawn to sunset during the month of Ramadan. Zakah, paying alms tax on savings worth 85 G or gold or more, and the amount is kept for a year. Hajj, performing pilgrimage to Mecca if physically and financially able to do so. Muslims also believe in the 6 articles of faith: Almighty God, His angels, His prophets, His scriptures, free choice, fate, and destiny, the day of judgment. Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world, totaling 1.6 billion Muslims. I think it's more now. Make up 1/4 of the world's populations. Muslims come from different ethnic, cultural, and social backgrounds. Contrary to the common belief, not all Muslims are Arabs. Not all Arabs are Muslims. Arabs make less than 18% of the world's Muslims population. Indonesia, a single non-Arab Muslim country, country in Southeast Asia, has more Muslims than all Arabs countries combined. Whoa. I didn't know that either. Okay, who is Prophet Muhammad? Guys, I gotta stand up. I want to put this up because my knees are killing me. Who is Prophet Muhammad? The Prophet was born in Mecca in the year 570 CE. His father died before his birth, and his mother died when he was 6 years old. As he grew up, he acquired the epithet, epithet, the trustworthy. Muhammad had long detested the idolatry, social injustice, and corruption found in society. At the age of 40, he received the first revelation of the Quran from God through the angel Gabriel. Since the Prophet could not read or write, he had the scribes write down passages over the course of the revelation. The Quran also memorized word for word by the Prophet and many of his companions. Although the Prophet performed many miracles, such as the splitting of the moon, water gushing out from between his fingers, multiplying food, still the Quran is the greatest miracle. Just like many previous MUH, I don't know what that is. Just like many previous MUH, Muhammad and his early followers were persecuted, and some were even killed for advocating revolutionary ideas such as social justice and women's rights. And the persecution grew fierce, and Prophet and many of his companions immigrated to the city of Medina, 260 miles north of Mecca. This immigration, Hijrah, marks the beginning of the Muslims' calendar. After several years, Mecca ultimately surrendered peacefully to Muhammad, who was issued a universal amnesty. Before the Prophet passed away at age 63, the greater part of the Arabian Peninsula had become Muslim. Within a century of his death, Islam had spread to Spain in the west and far east as China. The rapid spread of Islam, especially to the territories previously occupied by the Byzantine and Persian empires, was mostly because of its simple teachings and social justice. Why do Muslims call God Allah? Arab Muslims and Christians and Jews call God Allah. The word Allah is unique in the sense that it has no plural or gender. It literally means in Arabic, the one true God. Allah has many attributes and beautiful names such as the most compassionate, the most merciful, the all-loving, the judge, the creator, and the provider. In his native tongue of Aramaic, Jesus used Allah to refer to God. Moses used among other words, Eloha in Hebrew, Allah Allah, and Elah come from three Semitic languages, Arabic, Aramaic, and Hebrew, respectively. The proper name Allah can be translated as God. Even though this is an imperfect translation, it leaves readers unfamiliar with Arabic with a better understanding and the connection to the translation. What is the Quran? There are no benches nearby you could sit and read, like far. It's cool though. What is the Quran? The Quran is the holy book of Islam. It is a collection of revelations that were received by Prophet Muhammad over the course of 23 years in the 7th century CE. There is only one version of the Quran, perfectly preserved and written in oral records around the world for nearly 1400 years. The Quran is the only book in history that has been memorized verbatim by millions of people. Wow, imagine memorizing the Quran. I lost my place. Okay. Chapters were written down separately during the life of the Prophet and were collected in one volume within 2 years of his death. Exact copies were later duplicated from the original collection during the reign of the third Caliph Uthman ibn Affan and sent to major Muslim cities. Today, all copies of the Quran, called Masahif, plural, and of Musaf, are perfect duplicates of the original. The Quran emphasizes universal ethics such as honesty, sincerity, generosity, mercy, and standing up for what is right. It aims at humanizing humanity and defying God, and therefore condemns those who personify God or idolize their fellow created beings. Whoa. Whoa. Okay. Was the Quran copied from the Bible? It is worth mentioning that the first Arabic translation of the Bible was done centuries after the Prophet's death. From an Islamic point of view, similarities between the Quran and the Bible, especially historical stories such as that of Joseph, Moses, and Jesus, stem from the fact that both scriptures came originally from the same source, divine revelation. Because of the differences in transmission and interpretation of the Bible, over time the stories changed. The Quranic narratives now appear slightly different. For example, unlike the Quran 122, in the book of Genesis, Eve was tempted to eat from the tree, and therefore she is to blame for all the fall. Also, according to the Quran, chapter 19, prophets are infallible of sin. But in the Bible, some prophets are guilty of shameful and even criminal acts. For example, David impregnated his neighbor's wife, Bathsheba, before conspiring to get her husband Uriah killed. Oh my goodness. Well, bad Bathsheba. I'm sorry. 2 Samuel 11, 1-27. A lot. I don't want to read this out loud. Lot had sex with his 2 daughters. That's horrible. Genesis 19, 30-38. Whoa. And Noah got drunk and naked. Genesis 9, 20-21. See, they don't talk about this. Christians don't talk about that. Oh my goodness. She said the cheese man. What? Wow. Okay, some biblical stories are not in the Quran and vice versa. For example, the biblical story of Isaiah is not in the Quran, while the story of Moses and Al-Qadir mentioned in chapter 18 of the Quran is not in the Bible. Also, there are 3 miracles of Jesus in the Quran that are not in the Bible. Although both scriptures emphasize global ethics such as dignity, kindness, and charity, each revolves around a different theology. Both have contrasting views on the perception of God, Jesus, salvation, crucifixion, and the original sin. Is Islam compatible with science? Guys, I'm so cold. Okay. Although the Quran is a book of science, not the book of science, there are many scientific references in the Quran, such as the formation and developmental phases of an embryo in the uterus. Chapter 23, 12 to 14, chapter 22 and 5. The Big Bang, 21:30. The constant expansion of the universe, 51:47 and 8. Spherical shape of the earth, 39:5 and 79:30. And the earth's rotation, 27:88. And many other that have become known only in the last 2 centuries. How the heck did Prophet Muhammad know all of this? Hello, there's the miracle. Excuse me, y'all. It's a little chilly out here. According to the Arab proverb, the ink of a scholar is holier than the blood of a martyr. Islam's emphasis on education galvanized learning and science in Muslim world, culminating in what is known as the Islamic Golden Age. For centuries, Muslims pioneered medicine, anatomy, mathematics, geography, astronomy, architecture, and many other sciences. Algebra, alchemy, and alcohol are all Arabic words. The Canon of Medicine by Avicenna, Ibn Sina, 980 to 1037 CE, was a primary medical text in the medieval Europe for over 700 years. Many surgical tools that are used today were invented by Al-Bukasis Al-Zahrawi, 936-1013. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. Maryam al-Astrolabia, a female Muslim scholar who lived in the 10th century in Syria, was famous for designing and constructing astrolabes. Arabic numerals 0, 1 to 3, etc. are used worldwide. Oh, wow. I did not know a Muslim created the numbers. Okay. Muslims invented numerous sciences and developed many others, which they had inherited from the Romans, Greeks, Persians, Indians, and others, and laid the foundations of the European Industrial Revolution. The invention of cameras, computers, and navigation systems could not have been possible without the contributions of Muslim scholars. Whoa, alhamdulillah. What is the Sharia law? Linguistically, Sharia means a pathway. Technically, it is the Muslim's law derived mainly from the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, governing every aspect of a Muslim's life. Sharia is made up of thousands of teachings and rulings covering theology, acts of worships, manner, human interactions, business transactions, family relations, marriage, divorce, inheritance, war and peace, belief in the unseen, God, angels, and the hereafter, and criminal law. Sharia mainly aims at protecting 5 things: life, honor, freedom to practice one's faith, intellect, and property. Therefore, there are punishments in Islamic law for violating any of these rights. Every country has punishments for offenses, even though the penalty for the same crime may vary from one country to another. They say that Sharia is all about chopping people's hands off, and it's like saying that the American law is like killing people with an electric chair. Oh, Sharia does not apply to non-Muslims, minorities living in a predominantly Muslim country. Of the 57 Muslim countries in the world, the great majority are secular, not Sharia based. Muslims living in the West follow the law of the land and maintain the Sharia mainly in personal matters such as prayers, marriage, and inheritance. Sharia is also forbids the consumption of pork, alcohol, and drugs. Smoking is frowned upon. In Islam, is Islam compatible with modern democracy? We have to make a distinction between what Islam teaches and how countries in the Muslim world are run. As pointed out earlier, many Muslim countries are secular based, not fully subscribing to Islamic morals or Western democratic values. Islam and modern democracies have many things in common. For example, the fundamental principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights are acceptable Islamically, which makes Islamic values unique is what they do not change over time. What is right in the sight of God is always right, and what is wrong is always wrong. On the other hand, many secular freedoms, which have been mostly adopted in the last few decades, are still subject to debate in the Western societies. For example, marijuana, same-sex marriage, abortion, incest, and prostitution are legal in some democracies and illegal in others. The same applies to euthanasia and did I say that right? Euthanasia and the death penalty. Moreover, in a secular society, and a majority's opinion prevails. In the Islamic concept of Sharia, the truth prevails even if it's held by a minority. For example, the segregation of blacks and white under the Jim Crow laws would be prohibited under the Sharia, since the discrimination based on color goes against Islamic beliefs. Wow. Oh. Wow. Does jihad equal terrorism? No. Life is sacred in Islam. The Quran 5:32 states, "Whoever takes a life, it will be as if he killed all of humanity. And whoever saves a life, it will be as if they saved all of humanity." Those who manipulate verses from the Quran by taking them out of context to justify violence against innocents contradict the Quran's call for tolerance and peaceful coexistence. Islam is uniquely against terrorism. I think I said that wrong. Islam is against terrorism. Jihad means to strive for a better, more righteous life. The major jihad is to overcome one's desires, such as greed. Prophet Muhammad says, the highest form of jihad is to speak a word of truth in the presence of tyrants. Kindness to our parents is a form of jihad, and charity to orphans and widows is jihad. The minor jihad is fighting in self-defense. The Prophet set the etiquettes of fighting as follows. Do not ask God to meet your enemies in battle, and do not start a war. If you must fight, then strike only at those combatants who attacked you. Do not attack women. Do not attack children. Do not attack the elderly or those retreating in their places of worship. Wow. And do not cut down trees or kill animals. Wow. That's beautiful. We have to keep in mind that all violent passages in the Quran, including verses in the chapters 2, 8, 9, 47, and 48, strictly concern conflicts between early Muslims and the pagans of Mecca over 1400 years ago. As such, all passages should be understood in the historical context. In Islam, fighting is allowed against aggressors regardless of their faith. Fighting against innocents is prohibited regardless of their faith. Overall, violent passages in the Quran talk about one of the three things: fighting back in self-defense, making peace of attackers cease, or resuming the fight if truth is violated. Whoo, you guys, I am freezing. But we got 2 more pages, and then tomorrow we're gonna start with the book, the passages and everything. What is the origin of the religious violence? No religion condones the killing of innocents, but some people manipulate religion to justify acts of violence. So even if Islam and other faiths have been so even if that's cold. Okay. I gotta find a warmer spot next time, you guys. Okay, what is the origin of the religious violence? No religion condones the killing of innocents, but some people manipulate religion to justify acts of violence. So, even if Islam and other faiths have never existed, humans would have come up with other excuses to fight for domination. That is true. We have been so notorious anti-religion, secularist ideologies like those championed by Mao and Stalin, the top mass murders in modern history, I didn't know that, which were responsible for over 70 million deaths in the 20th century. I gotta look that up. Mao and Stalin? Dude, I look cold. Okay. Most victims of violence in the Muslim world are Muslims, who are either killed by unjustified wars, suicide bombs, or drone attacks. Over the last few decades, hundreds and thousands have been killed, most of them civilians, and many others wounded or displaced. Justice, dignity, and education, some of the most fundamental aspects of human rights, are the key to peace and prosperity around the world. Are women abused in Islam? Assalamu alaikum wa Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you for being here, Heaven. Okay. Are women abused in Islam? The Quran makes it clear that men and women are equal before God and the law. 1697 and 3335. Abuses against some Muslim women, e.g., honor killing and forced marriages, are cultural practices in some Muslim countries that contradict Islamic teachings. There are many prominent Muslim women in every field: education, science, business, etc. Several Muslim women have been elected president and prime minister in Muslim-majority countries like Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Turkey. The high status of women in Islam explains why 75% of reverts to Islam are women. Why do Muslim women wear the hijab? The veil is deeply rooted in all Abrahamic traditions. Christian icons such as Mary and Mother Teresa are always depicted with veils. In the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet, both men and women are urged to be modest in their dress and behavior. Hijab is worn by adult Muslim women in the presence of adult males outside of the immediate family. What are the rights of a non-Muslims I'm sorry, I read that wrong. What are the rights of non-Muslims in Islam? Islam guarantees the freedom of non-Muslims to practice their faith, protection for their places of worship. The Prophet Muhammad said, "Whoever harms a non-Muslim under the protection of Islam, I shall be their opponent on Judgment Day, and they will not smell paradise." The Quran teaches that there are 3 types of brotherhood. Brotherhood in humanity. This includes all human beings. Biological brotherhood, one sibling, and brotherhood in faith, fellow Muslims. Islam allows giving the charity to non-Muslims and exchanging gifts and visits with them. The Quran 68:9 exhorts Muslims to be kind and generous to non-Muslims. It forbids forcing non-Muslims to convert to Islam. I don't know why that made me tear up a little bit. For centuries, non-Muslims communities thrived and Jews occupied the prominent positions in the courts in some Muslim caliphs, serving as translators, physicians, and architects. Do Muslims believe in other prophets? As listed on the next page, the Quran mentions 25 prophets by name, of whom 5 are given the honorary title of the messengers of the firm resolve, namely Abraham, Noah, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. The Quran 12:111 says, in their stories, there is truly a lesson for people of reason. Some of the most common names in the Muslim world include Isa, Jesus in Arabic, Musa, Moses, Maryam, Mary, Yusuf, Joseph, and Ibrahim, Abraham. Jesus is mentioned by the name in the Quran 25 times. Mary 31 times, compared to 18 times in the Bible. Whereas Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is mentioned, named only 4 times. Chapter 19 in the Quran is named after Mary. Muslims believe that Jesus is the Christ of the Messiah. They also believe in his virgin birth, ascension, and second coming. Whoa. So Jesus is in the Quran more than Prophet Muhammad? Wow, I did not know that either. I'm learning so much. All right, these are the prophets named in the Quran. I'm going to read some of the names. Prophets mentioned in the Quran: Aaron, Abraham, Adam, David, Elias, Elijah, Enoch, Hud, Isaac, Ishmael, Jacob, Jesus, Job, John the Baptist, Jonah, Joseph, Lot, Moses, Muhammad, Noah, Salih, Shuaib, Solomon, Zachariah, Sul-Kifl. As the Quran teaches Muslims not to exalt one prophet over the others, 285, it is customary to say peace be upon him when the name of any of the prophets is mentioned. Wow. That's beautiful. That's like major respect. All right, we're on the last page, you guys, and then tomorrow we're gonna start with the book. Select teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. Let me sit down. Oh, my legs. We'll find a different spot to sit tomorrow. On the environment and animal rights. If Judgment Day arrives and you have a seedling in your hand, plant it regardless. Don't waste water, even if you live by a river. The Prophet prohibited polluting water sources and promised a heavenly reward for planting trees to feed animals, birds, and humans. He taught that it was a good deed done to an animal is like a good deed done to a human being, while an act of cruelty to an animal is bad as cruelty to a human being. He prohibited the use of live birds and animals as target for arrows, for killing of the animals for sports, slaughtering an animal in front of other animals, and forbade overburdening animals and underfeeding them. On the treatment of others, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that the smiling is a charity and taught, they are not one of us. Those who do not show respect to your seniors or show mercy to our youngsters. He have given women the right to inheritance, education, to own property, and to have a say in marriage, and say the best among the believers are those who are the best to their wives, and that paradise lies under the feet of the mother. Oh, this is so beautiful. He received Christians in a mosque and allowed them to pray there when their time for their prayer came. He also commemorated the day Moses and the children of Israel were saved from the Pharaoh and his army by fasting and ordering Muslims to fast, a practice that is continued until today. He said, O humanity, your Lord is one, and your ancestry, i.e. Adam and Eve, is one. No Arab is superior to a non-Arab, and no non-Arab is superior to an Arab, nor is any white superior to any black, nor is any black black superior to any white except account of their piety. And none of you truly believes until they love for others what they love for themselves. I'm falling in love. Oh my goodness. Okay. On the best way of life. The prophet set out a way of life through his example. But he is also But he also had the following to say on living a fulfilling life. The true Muslim is one who does not harm people with their hands or tongue. Seeking knowledge is an obligation on every Muslim. Do not respond to evil by evil, but by doing what is good. Show mercy to those on earth, and God will show mercy to you. Take advantage of the 5 matters before the coming of 5 things. Your health before you fall sick. Your wealth before you become poor. Your free time before you become busy. Your youth before you become old. And your life before your death. Be mindful of God, and he will always be with you. Remember God in times of prosperity, and he will remember you in times of adversity. And know that what has passed you by and you have failed to attain was not going to befall you. And what has befallen you was not going to pass you by. And know that victory comes with perseverance, relief with affliction, and ease with hardship. Oh my goodness. Guys, that was just the introduction of the Quran. We're gonna start reading tomorrow. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning after Fajr. Allahu Akbar, Takbir. Takbir, guys. That was so beautiful. I want to read that again tomorrow before starting it. But thank you guys for tuning in. Right now, I'm not even in Chicago. I think I'm in New Jersey or Pennsylvania or something. I don't know. I'm on my way back to Chicago. I was just in New York celebrating the first night of Ramadan. So God bless you guys. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to go get warm now. I'll see you tomorrow. Ramadan Mubarak. Bye, guys. Oy, 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 oy.